With tight end depth tested, it's time to get to know N'Keal Harry. Welcome to the Everyman Series on the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much to my hashtag everydayers, those of you who listen to this show every single day. I appreciate you all so very much. Those of you who come and listen every day instead of just picking and choosing the topics. A lot of people just want to listen to the quarterbacks ones, and hey, I love you. That's okay. But I greatly appreciate those of you who do listen every single day. If you are new here and you're looking for camp updates, well, they didn't practice on Thursday, so we don't have a lot to talk about, so we're doing the Everyman Series. But if you want to continue to listen to this show on actual camp days, you can watch and listen wherever you find your favorite podcast. Just search out Locked On Vikings, including YouTube or Amazon Fire and Roku. Just download the Locked On Minnesota Sports app. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today is a big long entry into the Everyman Series because N'Keal Harry's story deserves it. Whenever we talk about a player, I mean, if you think about N'Keal Harry right now, you're probably thinking like draft bust, right? Like that's the reputation that carries with him, whether he likes it or not. And it always, I think, raises the question, well, why? Why did that happen? What went wrong here? And we'll investigate that a little bit, but I think we also have to get to know him as a person, which is the goal of the Everyman Series, a series on Locked On Vikings where we go over every single new Minnesota Viking and their journey to the NFL and to the Vikings in particular. We try to get to know the human side of them as much as we get to know their stat lines or their tape or whatever it is that we usually talk about here on Locked On Vikings. So, N'Keal Harry was born in Canada, but he grew up in the Grenadine Islands. That was where the family was from. So, island kid. And at about 4 years old, it was immediately clear that this kid was like an athlete. He had that like rambunctious, you can't sit still, can't keep him in the house kind of thing that so many of these like NFL players have. Where like, oh, this kid is going to do sports. So his grandma, whose name is Felna Harry, who lived in the States at the time, offered to raise him and take him to the United States where he would have better opportunities. This is an insane sacrifice. This is an incredible act of generosity to your grandchild. And I'm sure plenty of people listening are grandparents, and I'm sure many of you would do the same. But I certainly appreciate it. I'm not a parent, and I don't really see... And I think stuff like this is stuff that I'm not capable, and that's kind of why I'm not a parent. And so I have this like reverence, this admiration for people doing things for other people that I think are beyond what I'm capable of, I guess. Felna has to give up her retirement, completely torch her finances. She'll take a job at a hospice facility, and she'll put herself through hell. She will often take night shifts. So that is starting at 10 p.m., maybe as early as 6 p.m., working through the night all the way to 6 a.m., getting home, take the kid to school. And then from there, take him to, sporting events, try to go to games when she can, dozing off in the stands because she didn't get any sleep the last 2 nights. The two of them start out in a smaller place in Scottsdale, but it's pretty clear that they're going to need more space for this child who is a hurricane. He's like 8 years old. She got him like one of those little toy basketball hoops, and he just spent all day on it. And to the point, like, she couldn't sleep. She's trying to sleep in the middle of the day because she had a night shift and couldn't do it because bang, 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 bang all day long. This kid will not calm down. And you just cannot contain him in that small of a space. So they'll go get a bigger place in Chandler, Arizona, which is where most of N'Keal Harry's coming of age takes place. Chandler, Arizona. He will play like every sport, which is what you have to do when you have like these hurricane kids. You put them in every sport to hope that all of them combined will burn off the energy. But you also got to take them to every single sport. And truly, raising this kid becomes Felna's life. And he's a kid that she, at her age, with the other responsibilities that she has, can barely keep up with. But he'll be in track, soccer, karate, like cricket, because like in the Grenadine Islands, he knew some cricket. And then he found football at around the age of 8 years old. This was a little like he immediately fell in love with football. Oh my God, Grandma, this is going to be my passion. And she was a little bit sketchy about it. It's a dangerous sport. It took a little bit of talking into, but it was clear how much of a passion he was going to have for this. So they put him in football. And of course, he excels at it like he has excelled at every single other thing. He would outrun all the kids all the time, outcompete all the kids all the other time. And like, isn't this such a first round pick story? Isn't this such a this kid was just like the premier athlete of athletes the entire time growing up? But this is also a story of community, because in the Chandler, Arizona youth circuit, the programs that he was that he played in, the coaches kind of helped him out. And a lot of the coaches had sons on the youth program that then N'Keal Harry would become friends with. So there'd be sleepovers and camping trips, and I'll take him tonight. And Felna finally got a damn break. And some of those coaches could tell that she was pouring so much of herself into raising this kid that they were like, why don't you sleep in tomorrow? We'll take him. And there's this real it takes a village vibe to this part of. There's a bunch of profiles on him and his story here. The one I'm sourcing a lot of this from is in The Athletic, which I'll link to in the show notes. Please yell at me if I forget. But isn't that kind of the beautiful thing about football in the United States, about team sports, that it is a sense of community, that it's not just, it is, especially if you spend your whole childhood playing football with the same guys in your grade, and you grow up with them, and they're your best friend, and they're the best man at your wedding. And this is how those deep, ancient brotherhoods are formed, but also with the adults. Coaches that look out for each other, coaches and parents that look out for each other. This is community. It's as tight-knit as your local church. This is, in some places in the United States, this might as well be church football in places. Maybe not Arizona isn't as known for it as Texas or Florida, but this is a sense of community. The whole community in Chandler got to know N'Keal Harry and got excited about N'Keal Harry and how good he would be, and understood that same thing that was so clear and evident all the way back on the Grenadine Islands, that this guy, if he is properly nurtured, if he is given the right opportunities, he is going far, and far he would go. Freshman year, he commuted to a different school, and then sophomore year, he transferred to Chandler High School, which is a really prestigious high school football program, and there it got serious, and so did his motivations. That'll be next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by eBay Motors. No matter what it is that you need for your car, whether it's something under the hood that you need to keep it going, or something cosmetic to help it express you and your style the way that you want, whatever it is, it's your car. It's your ride or die. It is the thing that is with you when no one else is with you. It's the thing that is with you every single day, getting you from point A to point B. So take good care of that thing and express yourself. With over 122 million parts for your car, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your car every time, or your money back. So no more trying to figure out if this is the right year of the part for my make and my model. eBay will take care of all of that for you and get you the right part the first time. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. When you're done here, go check out Locked On Sports Today, where you can find a 24/7 live stream of all things sports, shows just like this one for all around the worlds of the NFL, basketball, MLB, everything. Or if you want just the Locked On NFL one, and you just want to listen to football shows, we've got a version of that too on the Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Moving on with this Everyman Series entry about N'Keal Harry, I have a question for you. What's your why? That's a question that was posed to me at a clinic I was able to go to this spring that was led by the defensive line coach at a prominent D1 program. I'll just say that. A prominent Power 5 program. And that was the way that he started this talk, which was about like D-line technique. But the first thing he said, and he was very clear, this is the most important thing. All this technique crap, don't care. What's your why? Why do you do this? And he said, for me, it's my wife, it's my kids, and it's, this is why I do this. But what your why is, and understanding what everyone's why is crucial to what he does as a college football coach. And that really stuck with me. For N'Keal Harry, the why is Felna. Felna Harry gave everything for her grandson, gave up what should have been the most relaxing part of her life, right? An earned retirement after a lifetime of working hard, decided to keep working hard so that her grandson could have opportunities. And for N'Keal Harry, the reason to do all this is to pay that back. A life for a life. If Felna gave up her life for N'Keal Harry, then N'Keal Harry wants to give one back to her. Be able to provide for her, to make it so she never has to worry again, certainly so she doesn't have to work again. And football is going to be the avenue to that. And that is what keeps him going. That is the motivation that carries him, especially as a teenager, especially as a college player, where those opportunities are in front of you, but they have to be seized. And he would do this at every practice, at every game. They could not get him to back off, even when they wanted to. And the thing is, like in high school, he was the stud of studs, right? He was absolutely like torching everybody. And the play wasn't the problem. It was his grades. Obviously you have to stay academically eligible. And especially in senior year, he wasn't as interested in the grades. He was all about the football field, right? So again, coaches had to step in. Coaches had to help. And it's kind of funny, like some of these articles will interview Felna, and she'll kind of say like, I couldn't really be as strict with him as I was with my kids. Different time and all that. But she only had so much power to like force him to do his homework, right? Because a lot of the times he's at school, like, or she can't helicopter him all day long. So his teammates had to help. His coaches had to help. He said, did you get your grades in? And again, community. It takes a village. I think that's the most beautiful thing about the N'Keal Harry part of this story is the community that supported him this whole time and how much further he went because he had a sense of community. That's so beautiful. That's so, like, that makes me feel patriotic. I love that is what we get out of one of the most American things in the world, which is football. His grades will ultimately never hold him back. This system works. He's got to be pushed a little bit, but he'll stay eligible. He's not going to have to do the JUCO thing or anything like that. It'll be fine. And therefore, he gets a ton of offers from everybody. Oh my goodness, everybody wants a piece. USC, Oklahoma, like all the big ones. But he will choose to play for the Arizona State Sun Devils so that he can stay close to home in Chandler, Arizona. And on weekends at ASU, he'll go back and spend time with Felna. He'll actually spend a lot of time back in the community of Chandler, Arizona, because I think, again, there is a little bit of a pay it back. This community helped me. He pays it back by going back to the community, by talking to the high school kids, and saying, hey, I'm this stud at ASU now. Here's what I did. Here's what you have to do. By making sure he spends a lot of time with his grandma, that he doesn't leave her behind, which a lot of people go off to college and they do kind of forget about their relationships back home, but not N'Keal Harry. That community is a lot to him. And then there's the competitive spirit that carries him at ASU. And this is throughout everything, but there are a couple of really funny anecdotes that I think perfectly encapsulate it. During his time at Arizona State, he was dating one of the basketball players, a girl's basketball player, and he would like brag all the time that she had never beaten him one-on-one. Now, I cannot verify the veracity of this claim. All I can say is that people heard it from him. But people would be like, dude, that's your girlfriend. She's a basketball player. You should probably let her win at basketball. It's not even that much of it. Like, she's a basketball player. Like, that's perfectly understandable. He's like, nah, what? Let her win? Absolutely not. Which, in my opinion, is feminism. We don't let girls win here. They gotta win. They gotta beat us. But it's just not like hard. There is no such thing as hardwire as like taking a step back. There's no dialing it back. He's hardwired to go 100% at every practice and every game. And that's really the difference, I think, with NFL players versus Uncle Rico's, right? That like, oh, we could have won state if I put it in. Is the practice is the same as the games. Much to the chagrin of many Arizona State coaches who are like, look, we're not, stop bowling my cornerbacks over, please. We're not even in full pads. Like, or in high school, he played a little bit of linebacker, a little bit of defensive end, and he would just like destroy people and he would like ruin offensive drills just by like playing too hard. And it's like, okay, can you chill out a little bit? And the answer is like, no, coach, I can't. Physically, he cannot. He will go to one of the pre-draft things he does is this thing called Exos, which is wide receivers and cornerbacks, or at least with him, the wide receivers and cornerbacks. And he's training with a lot of the other 2019 draft picks. We're talking DK Metcalf and Deebo Samuel, and Ayuk was the next year. But I think AJ Brown was there, like a bunch of these 2019 draft picks, which is what N'Keal Harry will also be part of that class. And they'll do like a sprint. This is DK Metcalf. That dude ran like a 4.33. You're not beating him in a sprint. And N'Keal Harry would it just like short-circuited his brain that he couldn't beat all these other like way faster players in a sprint. These are these are superstar NFL players, but he like cannot fathom it. And so he'll just like tear off a layer of clothing and be like, let me go again. Like that was just let me like loosen up more and let me go again. He's like in his spandex by the end of this. Like he's torn off all of his layers of clothing. Like he's a werewolf that is fueled instead of by full moons by like tenths of a second on a 40 time. And like he'll go over and over and over again. He'll actually spar a lot with Joanne Williams, who he would share a spot on the Vikings practice squad with last year. And Joanne Williams kind of had the same thing at this Exos thing where they're like, hey, we're just going 75% here. We're just getting the drill down, like chill out. And they're just chill out. There is no chill out. There can never be chill out with N'Keal Harry. And that leads us to the draft, where at the very end of night one, big draft party, he gets the call. Last pick. 32nd overall to the New England Patriots. The dream has been realized. And the why, in a sense, has been fulfilled. This will come with over $8 million, almost $9 million guaranteed money. He'll end up earning about 8.2 of an $8.9 million contract. He will achieve what he worked so hard for, what Felna worked so hard for. This is where the credits roll in the movie. And yet, it might be the worst thing that happened to his career. Coming up next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. And this summer, FanDuel is giving you a new boost or bonus every single day. So whether you're trying to take like a home run prop or something, or betting on something on the Olympics, or you want to say take the Vikings to win the NFC North, they're plus 1,000 right now, a distant fourth to win the NFC North. But if you believe and you want to take it, you can find stuff like that at FanDuel.com and all kinds of other crazy bets, referrals, contests, and all kinds of boosts and bonuses and stuff. So check back on FanDuel.com often because it changes all the time. See if you find something you like. Once again, that is FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. You don't get to pick who drafts you. You get to pick your college, right? And then you're not supposed to be able to, but you kind of get to pick your high school if you live in an area where there are many high schools to choose from and you're picking the best program. Like you can do that, but you don't get to pick who drafts you. The only pro players that get to pick where they go are undrafted rookies, and even them options are often limited. So you end up on the Patriots. You're N'Keal Harry. And it's the Patriot way. It's kind of the twilight years of the Patriot way, the Bill Belichick. This is the last year. He gets drafted in 2019. That's the last year that Brady is a Patriot. And that's the world that he goes into. And for a guy that we've been talking about as this hyper-competitive spirit, this can't dial it back, every practice is super serious. I mean, like video games in the dorm rooms at ASU, he treats them like the Super Bowl. He takes on everything at 100% all the time. Doesn't that sound so Patriot way? And maybe that explains why Bill Belichick, this is rumored, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but the rumor is that Belichick went against scouts to draft N'Keal Harry in the first round. And what a patriot he is, right? Like, I totally get, like, the culture reasons to do that. But it didn't work out. Why things went sour in New England is not really known. It's not something people are going to talk a lot about, and it's not something that maybe even N'Keal Harry himself understands. Maybe that's something that he's going to reflect on when he's 40 years old and go, yeah, maybe I could have done this, or that. But that's certainly not the thing on his mind right now, as he's trying to make the Minnesota Vikings. Who cares about what happened with the Patriots? But the bust label is always such an interesting one because most people, when they discuss a bust, the subtext of that conversation is this, like, well, they were always this bad and everyone was just wrong. And how come everyone couldn't see it coming, right? Where it's like this predetermined outcome. Where it's almost like if you ever play like Madden franchise mode and you click the scouting button on draft prospects and it like reveals information about them, right? That information never changes when you actually get the player in, right? If you're told they're an 83 at catching, you'll draft them. It'll say 83 at catching, right? And it's almost like we see these players as like this table of face down playing cards, and the best scouts can flip more of them up. But that's not really how it works. It's a much more human thing than that because they are humans, not playing cards. I don't know if you knew that. So I tend to think that when it comes to busts, people that were agreed upon should be first rounders. Now, N'Keal Harry was a controversial prospect. A lot of people didn't see it coming with him. But with a guy that still was seen to be easily a top 100 player in all of college football, that should be somebody with, an ability to be a starting receiver for a long time in the NFL. And when you have somebody like that flame out of New England the way he did, just about every time something else happened. It wasn't just that everyone's really stupid and wrong. There was something going on. Some off field, or something didn't jive, or they got injured at the wrong time or something like that. All kinds of things can cause it. Looking into that is, I think, part of what makes all this interesting. But for N'Keal Harry, it's unclear. We don't have a great answer. There are many theories. You could say maybe he just wasn't cut out for the Patriot way. I find that one hard to believe. One article that I sourced for all this posited that he had too many hang-ons, that people weighed him down. This was an anonymous with like a former coach that said, there was too much, that sense of community, that giving spirit that we've been admiring this whole time is maybe what sunk him, because there were too many people. Maybe they saw what he did for his grandma and said, where's my piece? I helped you too. What about me? And dividing his time, maybe he didn't prioritize himself enough. Maybe he was too selfless. I find an irony in that. I mean, that's the thing. You find out how selfless of a person N'Keal Harry is, and oh my God, and he does all this stuff on the football field. Most of the time, NFL teams will drool over that kind of thing. Not cited as the reason a guy didn't work out, and hey, maybe next time let's take somebody a little more selfish. Like, nobody's talking like that. So I don't really buy that one either. Maybe it was the Patriot way itself. Maybe this was the end of Belichick, basically, or the end of Belichick's greatness. I don't think they won a playoff game with him there in any of the 3 years that they were there. I mean, it was unheard of for the Patriots, who were coming. They picked him 32nd. They won the Super Bowl the year before. So maybe that was the beginning of the end of the Patriot way, and he was kind of the canary in the coal mine, and he wasn't coached up, the same way somebody like Deion Branch was way back in the heyday of the early 2000s. Whatever it was, a lot of Bostonians will look at N'Keal Harry and see him as kind of synonymous with the decay and fall of the Patriot Empire. He was there in 2019. That was Brady's last year. Then you have the Mac Jones years and everything falls apart. Now, you're not. Josh McDaniels was still there and he's gone. And there were rumors about that not really jiving, him not fitting the offense, all this other stuff. Maybe it's just an on-field explanation. Maybe they just used him wrong or something. But whatever it is, he flames out. And by May of 2022, they don't want anything to do with him anymore. They decline the 5th-year option. They trade him to Chicago for a 7th-round pick. They just dump him. He experiences 1 year there. Chicago doesn't sign him back. That's the end of his rookie contract. So now it's he has earned the almost $9 million that he was promised by the draft. And he's made that money, and the dream is there. Credits have rolled on the movie. Now we're trying to keep this alive. And that's what brings him to Minnesota. He ends up on the practice squad. He reunites with Joejuan Williams. And he has to take a more humble role. I mean, this is the humbling that almost every player goes through, whether it's from I'm the stud in high school to I'm just a guy in college, or to I'm a stud in college, I'm just a guy in the NFL. This is the humbling of I'm a practice squad guy now. I mean, I had my entire city, the Chandler High was abuzz because, oh my God, we're getting N'Keal Harry to come play for our football team. Now it's maybe we'll suit you up today, but we don't really think we're going to need you all the time. And if I had to guess, I don't know the guy, but if I had to guess from reading and kind of trying to understand his story, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would be too bitter about that. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong. But he doesn't seem like the kind of guy. And I'm not surprised to learn that the Vikings brought him back for a futures contract, that they liked what he gave. And what he did in 2023 was a dirty work role. He was a depth receiver that only really dressed when a lot of guys were hurt and mostly blocked. And now they're moving him to tight end and just kind of making that official. It's a dirty work role for a player who, while he was the superstar stud all the time, never got too big for his britches. Never let that get to his head. Never let him forget about the people that helped him get there. And if you believe that one coach, maybe to his detriment, he was so loyal to them. But the community that lifted him up, they got to be rooting for him, and I think I'm rooting for him just as hard. We'll talk to you next week, and as always, Skol.